Hello, everybody. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking to Andrew and Neha from Stitch, a very interesting startup utilizing a platform business model. Hello, Andrew and Neha. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Dino, for having us.
In our platform's research report, we defined a digital platform as a technology-enabled business model that creates value by facilitating exchanges and intermediary services between consumers and producers. Andrew and Neha, can you please share why you believe a platform business model and approach to serving customers made sense for your business?
Yeah, sure. I can briefly speak actually about what we were before we were a platform business, and actually some of the decision making that led from becoming a very single-threaded consumer-facing business to the infrastructure business that we are today, right? Because that will give you insight into some of the thinking that went into that decision. When we first started out building Stitch, we actually built a company called Wigwag, and it was a peer-to-peer lending company that was very much like a consumer application you could download from Google Play, from Apple Play. And we found out through the construction of that application that it was tremendously difficult, right? To even just be able to accept and make payments, as well as to onboard customers that have different bank accounts across various financial institutions was immensely difficult. And so one of the benefits that we saw in building an infrastructure company that had a much more marketplace and otherwise platform feel was that we can make this process of ideating, of innovating, of building on top of our software far easier for the customers and the businesses that we serve. And so I would say one of the clear benefits of operating in the platform infrastructure space that we do is that we're able to iterate and otherwise evolve alongside the numerous types of customers that we serve and support like a huge diversity of use cases through doing so. And I think if we were only like a single business model, it makes you a lot more rigid. It makes you a lot more sort of prone to market sentiment as well as overall consumer trends. And so for us, like taking the first step towards infrastructure was really deciding that becoming a platform business, supporting other businesses building that layer was going to be a far more defensible as well as a far more exponentially growth-oriented business model for us.
Thanks a lot, Andrew. That was really fascinating, and how you got there. What are some of the customer benefits you've observed from a platform business model?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, we don't have the traditional like essentially retail customers that a lot of platform business models. Like if you think about like the Take-A-Lots or the Mr. D's or the Ubers of the world, right? They're connecting two sets of individual suppliers and demanders of some sort. We don't have a traditional like two-sided platform in that case. What we actually do is we provide integration capabilities to early stage and late stage technology businesses, as well as anyone who needs to be like a financially technology oriented or enabled company. And so I would say some of the benefits there are we take what are really, really difficult jobs, right, for businesses built today, like stacks of infrastructure essentially. The two main areas that we play in are, you know, understanding and KYCing customers, as well as then accepting and making payments on their behalf. Really, really difficult and also very costly for businesses to build this themselves. And so for us as a platform business, one of the clear benefits is being able to abstract this complexity, right, of creating these capabilities on platform. Some of these are fundamental capabilities to even begin, right, aggregating customers on your platform. We provide like out the box, right? You integrate with us for 3 to 5 days. These capabilities are available to you to begin innovating immediately. And so that's why, I mean, one of the greatest parts of this job, and Neha can you know, attest to that as being the case, is that we serve like tons of different types of customers, from like your largest businesses like Sunlam, Yoko, Paystack, et cetera, to like developers in a garage, right? Like on day one of creating the business. And so the ability to reach out to a ton of different people and for them to be able to use our products in a way that, you know, that builds compelling, innovative financial experiences for their customers is, I would say, the benefit of us being a platform and an infrastructure business.
And I would add that I think from an end consumer point of view, we're making it easier for them to be able to take their own information and do more with it. Because they're able to connect their bank account when they're using these other apps, like it gives them a lot more control over things like I need to share my bank statements or I need to show proof of address. And so in some ways, we're making it a lot easier for, well, everyday people like you and I to be able to take our information that we own and utilize that to, you know, make it easier for us to perform our everyday functions.
Thanks, Neha. Thanks, Andrew. You're solving some really hard problems, and your eclectic mix of customers, I think, um, is evidence to it. Really, really interesting. Thank you for that. What are the main risks from your perspective, and how are you mitigating them?
Yeah, I would say that for platform businesses operating in financial technology in general, and something Dino you must be super familiar with, is that like we refer to this as like a multi-dimensional like battle, or at least like a multi-dimensional problem, right? You have your customers that you have to make sure are satisfied with your product. You have their customers that have to be aware of how the product is being used, as well as the terms and conditions of otherwise giving their bank account information for the operating of our product. And then on top of that, there are tons of invested stakeholders, right? Regulators such as yourselves, or conduct authorities such as yourselves, that we would seek advice from, as well as understand how we could be a better stakeholder and how we could play within the boundaries of a rapidly evolving regulatory framework, right? As well as like the central bank, the Payments Association of South Africa. It really is like an incredibly dense and organizational stakeholder map, right? That you have to maintain relationships with, and that's something that we've recently brought on Neha to lead, and so she can speak a little bit more about some of the risks of managing those relationships, or like at least not, I wouldn't say risks, but I would say some of the complexities, right? And making sure that everyone is aligned on the overall mission, right, of what we're trying to build. Neha, do you want to comment briefly on some of those elements, particularly as you work like squarely in the battlefield there?
Yeah, I feel like you set me up to talk about going out to war, but that's certainly not the case. I think the way we see it is, and this is very much our philosophy, is we look at this as like the ability to build partnerships, and the idea here is we're trying to do something creative and innovative, and at the end of the day, we're all aligned around why we're doing it. Is in the sense of creating opportunities for people to be able to access their data better, for people to be able to do their everyday jobs better. And how do we do that in a way that is secure and that is making sure that everybody understands the role that they play in this ecosystem. One of the first things that I think, given the stage we're at as a relatively early stage startup, I think one of the things that we've done in terms of mitigating some of the risks that come around consumer privacy and data security is hiring a chief information security officer, and building a information steering committee. So I think that kind of aligns well with how we see this. We take this very seriously. For us, this isn't just an opportunity to build something cool. Like people often think, when you're a fintech, that you're just interested in building something and getting it out to market because you think it's innovative. But we actually take our responsibility very seriously. And to that end, one of the other things we've been doing is also spending a lot of time on our user experience and ensuring that when an end customer engages with our application in another fintech's app, that they are aware of where and how they're interacting with that. So both from what does this mean in terms of what are you giving permission for us to be able to do, and how does this work? And so that's another area in terms of ensuring that consumers are aware, that they're educated, that they understand the choices that they're making here as well.
Thanks for that, Andrew. And some really hard problems and risks that you're addressing there with so many stakeholders. I think the saying as build fast and break things isn't always applicable in financial services.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to that end, I think.
Yeah.
I was going to say, and just on that, and I think what's been really great for us to see is in the last couple of months engaging with you and through the open banking workshops that FSCA has been putting together, with PASA obviously putting together the new payments industry body. So it's felt like there's a lot of activity that's happening from a regulation and policy point of view, and trying to engage organizations like us, which we're both very grateful and energized by.
Thanks, Neha, and we're glad you're part of the journey as well. Just more input just leads to better regulation and oversight. So we are appreciative of that. What do you expect the future holds for SA emanating from the rise of fintech platforms? If you had to look into the crystal ball.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if my predictions are worth anything, and I'd be curious to hear, Neha, yours as well. I mean, part of the reason why we built this business and decided to go and take an infrastructure approach as well as a platform approach to our model versus, just a single fintech operating in some layer of consumer experience, was that we wanted to take the gamble on the exponential growth of fintech, not only here in South Africa, but on the continent. Right? If you compare where we are now in 2021 versus just even a year ago with the activity of financial technology companies here in South Africa, right? It's grown like probably 3x year on year, right? And I think that trend is only going to continue, particularly as attention goes towards, alternative financial touch points that users might have that are non-bank in nature, that are non-traditional, that will growingly need to be catered for as well as adopted for in the regulatory frameworks that we speak about today. And so, I think largely my understanding and my hope, right, what we've kind of built this business on is that, financial technology innovators with the foundational blocks that we provide, as well as with enabling frameworks and environments such as the one that the FSCA is trying to build, will feel more comfortable building individualized experiences for individuals and consumers throughout South Africa that are just growingly going to be more innovative, more disruptive, as well as I think just generally more compelling, right? I think that's kind of the exciting eve that we're on now, whereby like tons of businesses are building different financial applications and products, and we're very much positioned to support that innovation and growth over time. So we certainly hope that it continues. But Neha, I don't know if you have a different perspective from that one.
No, I agree with that. And I think, again, like to why we're doing what we're doing, one of the other things that as a company, and this is in our name, right, in Stitch, so we really think about how can we bring together and I guess stitch together what the future of finance can look like, in order for people to feel like they have more access to financial tools and products and services. So I think one of the other things that we're really passionate about as a company is ensuring that where things go in South Africa in the future is an increase in financial inclusion, and for people's ability to be able to access tools and services. With the internet, we're trying to change the way that things can happen in the country, and hopefully this reduces a lot of barriers that traditionally have existed for people, in terms of being underbanked or unbanked. And so, I think one of our hopes certainly is to see a positive trajectory in South Africa around access to more financial tools and services.
Thanks, Andrew, and thanks, Neha. I think some very, very exciting times, and the future has a potential to be a lot better than the status quo. And it's really exciting to see you challenging that. Really looking forward to the future. So thank you very much for the fascinating discussion. I think that's all the time that we have for today. Big thanks, Andrew and Neha, and thank you for everyone for joining us today.
Awesome, of course. Thanks, Dino, for having us.
Thanks,